Even if you've been to America a lot as a tourist, I don't think you really get the place until you've lived there. And Lawrence, because he's been there for, I think, 15 years now, as a Brit, like he probably has a really good perspective on America and what it's actually like to live there and the stuff that you won't really pick up on if you like travel there for a couple of weeks. So this can be really, really interesting.
Oh my goodness, I have lived in America now for 17 years, and my team
Wow.
today have asked me to, off the top of my head, do a rapid fire response in which I tell you 8 things that I didn't know about America until I moved here. Usually, I like to prep these things so that I know what I'm going to say ahead of time. Today, it's just going to come from up here. The only exception to that is something that I scripted beforehand, and that is, if you've not yet had a chance to subscribe to this channel, do that now.
Please do that for me also. I'd really appreciate it. Really helps the channel.
In the meantime, let's do it. For some reason, this was the first thing that entered my head. When I moved to the United States, I lived in a little city called Anderson, Indiana. And we were driving around, my wife and me, and of course, I was new to the country, so everything was really novel, and I was looking out of the window with wide eyes at everything when we see a house, which on the side of it had a giant star. And my first thought was, oh, that must be the sheriff's house. This is America. America loves sheriffs. Well, it must have really loved them because I started seeing more of these things. This one has a star on the side of its house. That one has a star on the side of its house.
Is it Lone Star State? I mean, it can't be because it's in Indiana. It's not in Texas.
Like, are all of these people the sheriff? Well, then I broadened my horizons and visited other places in America and realized these houses with stars on them, they're everywhere. And I still, actually, to this day, haven't looked up why these stars are there. Well, the internet has left me none the wiser on this. Some say it's just for decorative purposes. Others say that it's connected to the person's religious beliefs, or it might even be connected to war. That's war in English. The meaning behind it differs depending on the person. In fact, some link it to barn houses of Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, where barn stars are a decorative painted object or image that typically adorn barns in that area. I don't live in Pennsylvania, so I still choose to think it's the sheriff's house. Can I talk about this? It entered my head. I'm going to talk about it.
I really thought maybe like something to do with the state that they were from, but if you're not from Texas, why would you have, I mean, because of the Lone Star State, it kind of makes sense if you know what I mean. Why is it like anyone who knows the reason, let me know.
Car crashes. I can't help but have an overwhelming feeling that car crashes happen with greater frequency in America than they do in Britain. I lived in England for 26 years, and the closest that I ever came to a car crash was while I was speeding round a corner while go-karting. Since I moved here, I've been in 2 car crashes, 2 bus crashes. I've also lost family members to 2 separate car crashes, and I don't think I'm alone. I think if you were to ask most Americans, they'd probably be able to tell you of somebody that they knew who died in such a way. I don't think most British people would have such a tragic array of stories. Now, you might be thinking, Lawrence, are your observations a truly reliable indicator of whether or not this is true? And the answer to that is no. Instead, I'm going to hand you over to Lawrence from the future, who has all of these stats in front of him.
It's just as I suspected. In Britain, there are around 1,700 motor vehicle fatalities per year, compared to 40,000 in the US. And you might think, yeah, but the US has a higher population. Of course this is the case. Well, let's do some maths. The United States has a population of around 340 million, while in Britain the number is about 67 million.
So it's almost a quarter, yet the number is like, wow, 20 times larger in America.
So the US has 5 times as many people, but it also has nearly 24 times as many fatal car crashes. So why is this? Well, it's probably a combination of factors. First of all, more Americans drive. Around 95% of the driving age population has a driver's license compared to 75% in the UK. Secondly, they're covering greater distances, so American vehicles gather wear and tear more easily. And those same vehicles are not subject to the same level of safety checks as cars in Britain, where
I think in America, if you guys had an MOT, here in the UK, every year, you need to take your car to a mechanic where he does an MOT, where he checks all of the basic safety aspects of the car, the brakes, the engine, the timing belt, all that stuff. As far as I'm aware, in America, you don't need to do that, right?
you're less likely to share the road with an absolute banger. Additionally, America has much higher rates of DUI incidents, and in some states, a restricted learner's permit can be issued to people as young as 14.
In fact, just recently, the UK passed a law in which drivers over the age of 70 must pass an eye test or face a driving ban. This was reported in various British media, but even a story about road safety cannot escape the clutches of political agenda.
That's why I'm glad I discovered ground description below.
But American roads are not all doom and gloom, as evidenced by the next thing that's just entered my head.
Do you guys know somebody that died in a car crash? Like, I don't, and knock on wood, hopefully never will, but is it really that common, like in America, that most people know someone who's either died or, you know, been seriously hurt in a crash? Have you been?
I didn't realise the extent to which American street names are named after trees. I knew from films that they were very often named after numbers or presidents, but once you've exhausted all of them, then you get things like Pinewood Drive, Cedar Lane, Maple Drive, Oak Street, Elm Street. Actually, no, I did know about that. Sassafras Boulevard. I'm making that one up, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow, it's
and when
real.
I think about it, this makes sense because in the eastern United States, trees are everywhere. And, you know, I think it creates this sense of utopia that when you look outside, the very spirit of nature channels its way down the road. I've no idea what I'm talking about. Sauces are a big one for me. I think when I grew up in Britain, I couldn't imagine that there was a country out there that liked their sauces more than we do, because we're obsessed with ketchup, brown sauce, mayonnaise, Liam Perrins, and salad cream.
You've got way more sauces over in America. Ranch, you know, sweet onion, barbecue.
Me,
Lemon. What's the other one? Oh God, lemon pepper.
that's a pretty big and diverse array of sauces. And then I moved to America and realised you ain't seen nothing yet. They are saucier than all of us, because they have all of the sauces I just mentioned, although HP sauce tends to be A1 steak sauce, which, as I've pointed out in previous videos, did originate in England, but then made it over to here and then disappeared in Britain. But that's another story altogether. But then they have barbecue sauce, ranch, which is technically a dressing, but still counts. Italian, see previous comment. And out in Idaho, I discovered this little concoction called fry sauce.
Fry sauce. It looks like burger sauce to me.
Which is basically mayo and ketchup mixed together. And it's not just that America has such a proliferation of sauces, it puts them on everything. See, I like sauces within reason, but Americans, they love it to excess. To where your sandwich, when you're eating it, drips down your hand. It shouldn't be, your sandwich shouldn't be dripping, but it is, because look at that. Right? I mean, this is a made-up scenario, so there's no actual sauce. But I've had it to where it's been down to my elbows or all over my jeans, and I'm sick of it. We're going to have to revolt. I never expected this video.
He is really fed up with the amount of sauce in the sandwiches. I mean, I do like sauce in my sandwiches too, you know, good flavor, but yeah, not so much that it's dribbling down your arm.
To get so heated about sauces. But honestly, this has led me on to think about something else, something that might prevent sauce from dripping down your arms, and that is a knife and fork, which actually has called to mind another thing. Americans hold their knives and forks differently if they choose to use a knife and fork. Sometimes they don't.
Like most British people, I was taught to hold the fork, which is facing down, in the left hand and the knife in the right hand. This way, you cut the food and then spear it in a downward motion before introducing it to your mouth. In America, they employ a zigzag approach. During the cutting phase, things do follow much the same course as the British method. That said, I've noticed some Americans might even forego the cutting and skip the knife altogether. But when they do use it, they will then place it down and switch the fork to their other hand before scooping up the food and introducing it to their mouths.
Really, I've never seen anybody eat like that. Is that a real thing, or did he make that up?
To mention, Americans don't tend to call it cutlery, but silverware. In Britain, this is silverware. And that has got me thinking about something else. And you might think, oh, he's going to do it, isn't he? He's going to talk about how Americans say soccer and British people say football. No, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is something that was even more surprising to me around this very sport. And that is that school fields and things like that in America do have a surprising number of goalposts. Like for a country that puts soccer fifth in its sort of overall priority rankings, I feel like I see more soccer fields than I do anything else. And I think part of that is down to the fact that here, it is a very popular sport among children. It's almost like they get to the age of 18 and they go, I'm off to university now, my soccer days are behind me, but in an American accent. Before I moved to America, I knew that British music was popular over here. Obviously, it had entered the charts over many decades.
Yeah, Rolling Stones, Beatles, The Smiths, yeah.
One thing I didn't know is that Americans tend to have quite a deep reverence for British music. I noticed this again recently when Ozzy Osbourne died. Americans seemed genuinely moved, and many Americans have sent me messages saying, "Ooh, Pink Floyd are the greatest band of all time. Thank you, Lawrence," as if me being British had something to do with it. And honestly, to someone like myself, it's very comforting to hear Americans talk with affection about the likes of Sting, Rod Stewart, Bananarama. Because even though I personally don't care for one of those three, Americans liking Rod Stewart is a sign, and it's a sign that says, if they like him, they'll like me. Until they hear me sing. And actually, that brings me on to number 8.
I think, yeah, in terms of music, both America and the UK share so much. You know, so many bands and artists from each of those countries have crossed over and been massively successful.
Which is singing. I can't explain this one. I don't have any stats for it, but Americans love to sing. This is something that I discovered firsthand back when I used to be a stage actor. And back then I was cast in the lead role in 1 or 2 musicals, and I was stunned by the caliber of the singing of the people who, by the way, were only at community theatre level, and I got the sense that their musical or singing abilities were the direct result of having gone to church all the time, because I think church, being a massive part of American culture, probably breeds that into people.
For sure, because you're going to be singing songs in church, hymns, and, you know, maybe being in the choir.
Whereas in Britain, we do have choir, and the people that are in the choir are really good. But I just think that, like, you asked the average person from my age group, were you in a choir or did you go to church? Most would probably say either no or not very frequently. The other thing about this is that British people, even if they are able to sing quite well, might not show it off too much.
Yeah, they'll be too modest, too shy.
Because we don't want to be seen to look like a prat.
Of course, this does go out the window once football and beer show up.
The other thing is that American schools have a lot of extracurricular activities that involve performance and singing on levels that I just don't think are quite as great in British schools. You have homework, but I'm not going to join a marching band. So, wow, that's it. 8 things I didn't know about America.
That's actually a big one. Marching bands. Before starting this channel, I'd never heard of what a marching band is, because they don't exist over here. But in America, especially at uni, at college, they're huge. Like the Ohio State Marching Band, the Jacksonville Marching Band, massive. We're talking like hundreds of people. It's so interesting. Like, despite the UK and America being so similar in like so many ways, there's a lot of differences too. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.